me your name, age, and occupation.
Yeah, I'm Kyle Fraser. I'm 30 years old, and I'm a lawyer.
Okay, what particular form of law are you working in?
So I work for a judge right now. I'm a litigator.
Okay.
So stereotypical sort of like courtroom arguer, attorney. But right now I work for a judge. I did labor and employment law the first year out of law school. I worked for like a larger law firm. And then right before I went to clerk for a judge, I did white collar criminal defense.
Wow.
So I'm hoping to sort of segue at some point into like public defense or federal public defense, but we'll see.
Interesting. So then, listen, we know that the label of lawyer on Survivor comes with a lot of things. Are you more on the Jake side of things or like the Julie side of things when it comes to revealing what your occupation is?
Yeah, so I'm 100% on the Julie side of things, with the caveat that like watching that season was so rough for me because like I can't say I'm a lawyer. I know strategically that's just well, it worked for Jake somehow, but I know strategically for me that's just not going to work, and stereotypically it doesn't work. But like, it's not that I think that lawyers are like this omnipotent, like incredibly strategic, like group of people. It's just I know that I can't say. So I'm gonna say I'm a teacher.
Okay.
I used to teach for 2 years right before I went to law school, so I think it'll be good. And I miss teaching and working with kids, so I think it'll be believable.
Yeah. So then, did you tell your work? You know, what was your reason for coming out here? Right? Were you like, oh, I'm going on a camping trip for 2 weeks? What does the work know before obviously this all gets released about what you're doing right now?
Yeah. Well, you know, clerking is like a 1 year stint that you do for a judge. It's very intimate, and you work closely with like 2 to 3 other people. So it wasn't something that I could just like get up and leave for without like giving some sort of explanation. So I had a sort of confidential talk with and obviously like cleared it through other people. But my judge is aware that something is going on, not exactly what it is. And I actually had to end up doing like a lot of my work in advance to sort of be able to come out here. So
well, let's talk about why you're out here. So what made you decide to approach the jury bench in a very different way, hopefully, when it comes to the Survivor jury? What's the reason why you're on the island right now?
Yeah, so I started watching Survivor, actually season 40, oddly enough. I think it's similar to Charlie's story. It was during COVID. I was in law school, like finishing up my second year, and it hit, and my girlfriend was like, now my fiance was like, maybe we should just leave and go live with my parents. It was the beginning of COVID, so we thought it was going to be for a week. So long story short, we drove to North Carolina thinking it was going to be a week, and we stayed at her parents' house for 3 months. And like, I had just met them, but her mom was watching Survivor one day. It was like literally the episode where Denise idled out Sandra. And I was like, holy shit, like what is this game? Like, I thought Survivor was like Fear Factor, like just eating worms out on the island, but like something completely different, this like social strategic game. So like,
no, you're eating each other, not the worms.
Yeah, exactly. And so that drew me in. I thought I would just like it for the strategic stuff, but after like sort of plopping around, I just loved the concept in general. Just like this idea of being dropped somewhere with a diverse group of people. Like, you don't necessarily know each other's backgrounds, but you can sort of like use your strengths and weaknesses. I don't know. It's just such an interesting game. Like,
yeah. So then because I imagine then once you fell in love, you're like, okay, I gotta watch through everything, and obviously through the new era. If you could give me a winner and a non-winner who you identify with the most, who would it be and why?
Yeah. Okay. So, you know, winner is really tough, but I would probably say Wendell. Like, I know that's probably like too on the nose for me, but he's a lawyer. He's a black man who kind of like sheds this box in a lot of ways that like by doing different things and sort of like making different life decisions that I just found were so interesting. I think where I identify with him the most from a game perspective wise is just like his social game. Like, I think that one of the reasons Wendell was able to beat out Dom was because like you could see like from the snippets that we had that he actually like really cared about the other contestants. Not saying that Dom didn't, but that just came across so starkly for Wendell in a non sort of greasy way.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that like that's how I can play this game. Like, I love people. I hope to make connections, you know, like I could see myself like picking up a seashell and giving it to a guy like Sebastian, like holding on to it like for him. Like, I don't know. I really resonated with his game. His game resonated with me rather. And then non-winner, that's also very tough, but I'd probably say Jay.
Okay.
Jay from Adam's season, I loved his game. I thought he was like the full package. Like, listen, I'm an athletic presenting person, I think. I don't know if that's going to like completely be my game. I hope that I can pull out a challenge or two. But what I loved about him was that like he was sort of good at challenges. People respected him and he respected other people. And because of that, he like strived socially. And like he just seemed like a free-flowing, easygoing guy. But underneath it all, he really kind of had these like ambitions. He talked about like how he was different than Figtails or like Taylor. He's like my buddies, but like I have these other ambitions. Like I feel as if my upbringing was very similar to that.
So what's your favorite moment in Survivor history? Does it connect back to the one that got you into it all with Denise idling out Sandra?
Can I give you two?
Oh, please.
There's like two for very different reasons that come to mind.
Yeah.
The first is Keith is one of my favorite. He was
may
one
rest
of my,
in peace.
May rest in peace. One of my favorite players. Him driving the tuk-tuk on the island is like one of my favorite things. Like that was one of the first seasons that we watched season 1, then bounced around after I watched season 40, and that was like one of the first scenes that I like can visually remember. And I was like, here's this guy like just with a complete group of people that he would have no business being around otherwise, excelling with them and connecting with them, and the tuk-tuk scene just like tied that all together. And then the other one is just on Ben's season when Dr. Mike says, like he has a like a ferocity that transcends this game. I think that is like one of the most underrated Survivor lines in the entire world. I mean, it's hilarious. Like
that is like the very definition of a deep cut. I love it so much. No, don't apologize. Listen, you're not going to apologize to me for quoting a random quote from Survivor 35. No, I'm there's mutual awe going on right now.
There we go.
Well, so let's talk a bit about your own preparation for this experience.
Yeah.
Because you talked about, having a little bit of that athleticism going on, but once you found out you were coming out here, what was sort of the prep experience to get you to the island in the first place?
Yeah, so, from a physical perspective, it's actually really funny. I fluctuated like 15 to 17 pounds in a matter of like 2.5 months. Like, I first like bulked up because I was like, oh, I need to be strong. But then I like sort of realized like I don't need to be that strong. So then I like started what I thought about the best scenario would being like putting on a bunch of weight so I can get as strong as possible. And then I shed a ton and started conditioning to sort of like, because I think endurance matters the most for pregame. And then like 2 weeks prior to coming out here, I've just been freaking wrecking burgers and like just putting on a ton of fat. Like I read an interview with Malcolm from like years ago where he talked about his like McDonald's diet.
Yeah.
I kind of see it. Like I feel like I'm in great shape. Like I've definitely put on some pounds, but I know I have those fat reserves. So physically, I've kind of just like, and I focused a lot on like flexibility and like just concentration.
They
and
say
things
grip
like
strength
that.
is the most important thing.
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah. I got one of those little grippy things.
Okay.
I fidget around with it at work every now and then. Mentally, like, listen, I'm not a puzzle guy. I'm not going to be good at puzzles. So I kind of just like decided, you know what, I'm going to put that to the wayside and focus on other things mentally. Like I really tried to just incorporate like Survivor into my everyday life. Like if I have not a disagreement with a coworker, but like maybe we see something differently, like I think about like how would I approach this in the game and try to like implement that. Work on like controlling emotions or thinking through what emotion you're feeling in certain circumstances. Like little things like that to over time where I feel like I'm ready to play this game. Yeah.
What's one life experience you feel has prepared you most for this?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I was a teacher. I actually taught at a boarding school for 2 years. But during the summers, I taught at a juvenile detention center. It was a charter school attached to a juvenile detention center, and they were able to like earn credits like in money. So when they get released, when the kids would get released, they would have like something to go out into the world. And that was a really hard experience. Like learning when you're in a juvenile detention center, I couldn't imagine. Learning was hard enough for me as a kid in school.
Yeah.
These kids are dealing with, I mean, this is outside of Maryland, so it houses kids from Baltimore and DC and areas that were not easy environments to grow up in. And trying to connect with them when they're trying to figure out like when the hell I'm going to get out of jail was really hard. But like I figured out a way to do it in different circumstances. And I feel like that's like some days it was really, really hard and like painful to see what they're going through, painful to sort of try and connect with them, but you've got to keep on pushing. And I feel like I kind of have to have that same mentality in Survivor. Yeah,
I mean, it's all about making connections under arduous circumstances. And, even when you don't necessarily feel like you're in the mood or in the state to do it, it's sort of an inevitability that needs to happen to get an end goal. So I think it totally feels like a one-to-one comparison.
Yeah. It definitely was like, I mean, and even going from teaching at a different boarding school that was like very affluent, like sort of community, like very expensive to go to, and like it was hard to connect with those kids too. I think like another thing that will be helpful is like going from that community that was so starkly different to my juvenile detention center community and figuring out ways to like navigate both of them in a way that like helps the kids. And I think that's what Survivor is too. Like there are going to be so many different players from different backgrounds that like will need you not to be a different person, but meet them in the way in which they want to play the game in a different way. Somebody wants to be super strategic, super calculated, and somebody like may just want to have fun. And I think it's important not to just play your game, to meet other people where they're at game-wise too.
Give me your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite when it comes to this game.
Yeah. My biggest superpower. Charm is like, I hate using the word charm, but like I do love people. I've been like this way since I was like a kid. My mom talks about like me running onto the playground like the first day of school as like a 5-year-old. Like I can be pretty persuasive. I can also just like be charming in a way that I like to connect with people, and I think people see that. Like I'm genuinely interested in them. So I think that will be very helpful to me. That it could be a weakness in that, like, I don't want to come across. I'm really going to focus on like one-on-one connections, not trying to be the guy that's like outwardly courageous or outwardly like running the room.
Yeah.
But I think charm and like sort of that persuasion, if you want to call it that, would be a superpower. Weakness. I'm an impulsive person.
Okay.
Like I'm a very. I guess that's not like stereotypical for a lawyer, but like I am a very like impulsive sort of like.
Listen, you're not the judge, so impulsivity is okay.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just want to sort of like, if an opportunity presents itself, like I want to go for it.
Yeah.
Like if I see a rare advantage, like I'm opening it up. I think more importantly though, it's the people around me. Like this is not a game where like you can just say whatever's on your mind. Oftentimes that's like fun in real life, but if you say something like that could not rub even somebody the wrong way, but if I say something that just like has any bearing on the game, that could plant the seed in somebody's mind. Oh, he's got to go. Wait, how many times have we heard that? Oh, like I heard Aubrey's she likes Aubrey. She's got to go. Like, you got to watch your mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. So then from that perspective, what do you think people are going to perceive you as? Whether it's taking in that charm, taking in that impulsivity. I mean, you talk about your athleticism. Are you trying to steer into that sort of like, not alpha male, but like I'm here to talk to you and win challenges, and that's it. Don't expect anything else from me.
No. That is the exact opposite of what I want. Like,
okay.
I do think that I can be a leader in real life sometimes,
okay.
but I wouldn't always cast myself in that role, nor would I want to be that out here. Like I think kind of what I was touching on earlier is what I want people to perceive me as is like a friend. Like I actually. My like motto throughout this game is going to be people first. Like I want to connect with people to then build a foundation to play the game. I think we see too many strategic players who don't have like the social foundation to get far in this game. What I think people will perceive me as, I don't quite know. Like I'm really hoping that they see me as somebody genuine, but I could totally see a situation where like I'm off talking with a lot of different people genuinely, and somebody thinks like, wow, that guy's trying to work the room a little too hard. So I'm going to try and temper that down. I hope people see me as like a genuine, authentic person who can help them in any way they need, whether that's camp life or hopefully challenges. But I know at least if I'm not doing all the challenges, I can work my ass off at camp and like help that way. So yeah.
Well, let's talk a bit more about your competition, because listen, you've been hanging around for a bit. I'm sure you've been making eyes or observing some of these people that you'll be playing against. So let's start on the positive side. Who are some people, describe them to me, that you feel best case scenario, you hit the beach on day one, like this is a prospective ride or die, this is someone I feel great about?
Yeah. So there is a taller blonde woman who I think she just seems like very fun. Like she's kind of like not afraid to like when we're in the dinner line, like bob and weave, sort of dance a little bit, or like not like outwardly. She just seems like she's very comfortable with herself, and that she like would like to have fun. I think it'd be fun to work with her. Like I want to work with somebody who like is smart, but also like wants to play this game in a fun way, not like dictate to one another. I've heard players talk about how it's nice to have somebody who views the game the same way you do, and I'm like a fun person.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun to work with her. I'm trying to think if there's like, I literally like everybody. Like
there's that charm coming through. There's Mr. I want to be everybody's friend.
I don't know. I just like, I'm sure everybody's doing it, but I keep on making up stories for everybody in my head. There's another guy, Superman. I call him Superman. He's,
okay.
He literally looks like Clark Kent. And I could say this because I'm sure that I'm not being creative here. I'm certain he's been called this throughout his entire life, or at least the past 2-3 years. Because I mean, he just looks very like physical, and like that he would do well in this game in that manner. But he also kind of comes across to me as like a very like teddy bear sort of dude. Just seems like a genuine person from what I've seen. so far. So yeah.
Well, what about on the other side? We'll go from Superman to Lex Luthor here. Who are some people that you're not necessarily vibing with at the moment?
Yeah. So I would not say that there's somebody that I'm not vibing with. I've really tried to keep it tempered. Like during this pregame, I don't know. I hope I've done a good job of that. But there is one person I can't get a read on. It's this gentleman with a beard, and he's got a large beard, and he's got like sort of like a very well groomed like sort of mullet, wavy sort of hair deal. And it's not that I don't vibe with him. I just can't put a read to him. Like I mentioned to you, like I've been able to sort of like I've been making backstories up for everybody in my head. Obviously, those will go by the wayside day one. But him, it's really hard to get a read on. Like there's nothing really consistent about him, and that's not scary to me, but it just like puts a little bell in my head that like, I got to look into this a little bit further. Who knows if that's even worth doing, but yeah.
Interesting. So you mentioned before, people first is your motto, but when it comes to idols, advantages, journeys, you spoke about that impulsivity. Are you the type of person that's just going to grab every opportunity, boat comes to your camp, you're like, me, find that beware advantage? Is that how you're approaching things?
No, absolutely not. So let me be clear. When I say people first, it's more so like you can't play this game without people. Like you can't just come out here and be like, I want to make this move, this move. You need people as a foundation. Like these aren't chess pieces or cards. Like you got to be able to sort of build a foundation before you can play. But that said, like I'm good at keeping a secret. There's certain parts of my life that I just don't feel comfortable sharing with people, and I'm totally cool not like blurting out. When I'm impulsive, it's more so with things that can like affect me like in the moment. Like I can't dive. If I get up on a challenge though and I see that there's like an opportunity to go for it, I might belly flop. But that's what I mean sort of impulsively.
That's a great metaphor for the game.
Yeah, who knows? And the next time maybe I'll land the dive. But no, I'm keeping that stuff to myself unless I have to. Like Tiffany last season, that's a situation you got to. But so who knows?
Well, I was going to ask about that because it does feel to me like 45 and 46 felt like such a distinct step forward in the new era from the first 4 seasons. So I'm sure you have those top of mind coming into all this. What would you say is like your main takeaway from those 2 seasons that you're incorporating into your own game?
Yeah, it's going to sound dumb, but again, it's people first. Like I think like, we're talking about different blocks of time in Survivor. And like if you look at like 30s, like we have this voting block idea that comes into play. And I think that like when season 45 and 46 were being playing, even 44, like they all acted like it was this bloating block like sort of game still, but it wasn't. All right, like you have Reba 4, you have Tika 3, and you have Charlie and Maria. Or if you don't want to do Charlie and Maria, you have the Goat 4, which they call themselves. I'm not calling them goats. Those are like not voting blocks. Those are like people who actually trust each other. Even though you have all this extraneous talk about number ones being taken out, the people who run the game are the people who actually trust each other. Pretty much close up until the very end.
Yeah,
that's my takeaway. That's why this people first thing is sort of my strategy. But the other takeaway is just like everything is just dangerous. Like you got to keep your head on a swivel, and like that. I mean, maybe that's just the new era as a whole, not just 45, 46 though.
What would you say is your hottest Survivor take? Your most controversial opinion about a season, a player, etc.?
Yeah. This is difficult. You can tell some of the 30s are on my mind recently because I did some rewatching of those.
Yeah.
And the new era, obviously. Okay, I'm gonna go back to Adam's season. I think that Adam was a phenomenal player, but I think that what season was that?
Millennials versus Gen X.
What's the number? Sorry.
33.
I think that there are 5 players on that season that were better Survivor players than Adam. Hannah, number 1, justice for Hannah, and then in no particular order, David, Zeke, and Jay. I think like so that's 4. I think pound for pound, those were like, I just think that season had so many great players, and
Absolutely,
it's like not talked about because like every single one of them had a legitimate shot to win the game, and they were all great, including Adam. I just think that and maybe this is what makes him the winner of that season, his timing was impeccable.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching him too, but I just came away from that season thinking I loved all of those players. Even Ken as well. Like his end game was kind of like a little rough shot, but like I really thought that was a great play. So I think that's my hot take. 4 of them were better than Adam. I'm making it hot.
There we go. It is spicy right now, but I love it. If you could pick a celebrity or a fictional character to bring out for a loved one's visit, who are you picking and why?
Do they have to be you said fictional character?
Fictional character, yeah.
Yeah, I'll bring out Stringer Bell from The Wire.
Hells yeah, man.
Has that been said before?
No, I think you're the first man to bring him in.
I I feel like maybe out of those two, which this might be the hot take, I'm probably an Avon. Like, when I first watched The Wire, I was like, I'm like Stringer for sure, like well poised, put together,
exactly.
like
Coming in with like a
done.
Yeah, he's going to a business school, bookish aspect to the entire ring and everything.
Exactly. But like the second rewatch, I was like, I'm more of an Avon. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and that gets me far enough. But I need somebody to ground me. So I would bring Stringer Bell and like just walk through every scenario with him, and then execute after that.
Yeah, but then he'd be like, I don't want to get alone with you. When I'm on one-on-one with people, bad things happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Where are the pigeons?
Yeah, exactly. Brother Musan's coming.
Last thing I want to ask. Obviously, Survivor 50 has been announced to be big returnee season. How are you going to make your mark right now on 48 that's going to get you back here a year later for Survivor 50?
That is a really difficult one. I think I'm going to show listen, I'm not saying that I'm going to be the winner, but if I win, I think it has to be a dominant game. Like I run the sort of scenarios in my head. I don't know how I can hide in a lot of ways. I have to come out and I have to play hard. I think my mark is going to be that you can play. I mean, we've seen it with D, we've seen it with a lot of different players, but like, I think that you can play a dominant game in the new era. I don't think you have to hide. I don't think you have to wait for the exact moment to strike. I think you can actually play hard the entire time. People might not see it. I mean, Charlie almost did it even, but I think you can get it done. So I think I can get it done in a dominant fashion, and I think that would leave my mark for sure.